This is Steve Heitzer, and you're listening to Everyone Needs a Spotter. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Everyone Needs a Spotter, the multifamily fitness podcast brought to you by the team here at RMS Fitness. I am the host today, Steve Heitzer, proudly joined by two of my three most favorite podcasters. I'm here today with, let's see, who's it going to be? To my left, Steven. How you doing, man?
What's up, Steve?
Not
What's
much,
going
man.
on, man? It's glad to have you back, as I think the last one I hosted,
Right.
I think I did a pretty good job.
You know what? We'll let the fans decide.
We'll let them decide.
We'll let the fans decide which Steve they prefer on the mic. I'm pretty sure it's me. Anyway, across the table, also with us today, Emily. Some of you know her as Emily. Others know her as Lil Wipey.
Mm-hmm.
I know her as Emily Lil Wipey. What's up, Emily Lil Wipey? How you doing?
I'm good. You know, it's been a week and it's been cold, and I'm not a big winter person because when you don't, I don't know. I feel like I'm affected by the lack of the sun and being outside.
Mhm.
But I'm looking outside today, and the sun is out, and it's actually warm weather today.
Mhm,
So all that snow that we had last week and ice is finally melting away, which is great. So so that is boosting my mood right now. It's Friday and the sun is out and it's warm.
It is. It is. It's
It's weird warm.
it is weird warm. It's like 75 degrees
Yeah,
warm.
it's like
Yeah.
It's a little strange.
bizarre.
It's not going to be warm for long.
No.
It's going to be rainy
So
this
I'm going to
weekend.
enjoy the day.
Yeah, enjoy it.
I'm going
and,
to go home and take a nap.
take a nap. That's what you do on a beautiful fall winter day.
Yeah.
Take a nap. No, you know what? We're happy to be here. It's the last couple hours of work before the weekend. Big weekend here in Baltimore. If you're here
That's
local,
right.
it's the AFC Championship game. Our local Baltimore Ravens are going to be playing against
The
everyone's
Chiefs.
favorite Swiftie up there
Ugh,
in
I hope they
Kansas City.
lose.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so tired of them. So tired of the whole duo thing. It's so annoying.
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much, I don't know about you guys. My whole weekend is pretty much centered around football. I'm going to be thinking about that and doing that for the most part. So that's where I'm going to be. But yeah, you know, that past couple weeks have been kind of crazy. You know, I was sick. I was out.
Mhm.
Most of us were sick and out at
Yep.
one point or
Yep.
another. It's been a little lean here around the office with people that
Indeed.
have been out sick. Steven's had to work like 120 hours a week.
Yeah,
These
someone's
past
got to
few
keep the
weeks.
lights on.
No, but anything interesting in the work world this week for you two? I know it's been a busy couple weeks with some installs and things. Steven, you had some cool projects
Yeah.
in the last few weeks with your famous Dweck.
Yeah,
properties.
we had a couple Dweck installs. The most recent one we had was Icon. It was like part one of their install. So all the cardio came in, and I think sometime mid-February their strength unit that they're excited for. It's a torque rig that's fully decked out. So that'll be cool.
Fully
put,
dwecked out.
Yeah, we'll put that on the gram. We'll put that on the LinkedIn. And
On the gram.
on the gram, yep. So if you follow us, you'll see it.
Do it for the gram.
It'll be cool.
Is that what the kids say?
I think so. Be cool to see that thing installed.
Yeah, you know, it's I think you're doing a lot with those folks over there. We're gonna give you a whole segment from now on. Just call it like "What the Dweck." Just be you and your Dweck up.
Yeah, seriously.
Emily, you've been involved in some things with the team, right? You've been out on the road a bit.
Yeah, and next week it will be the same, which I always appreciate the change up in the schedule.
Mhm.
I do know we had major, deliveries, a huge delivery that came this week, and the warehouse was like out of control. Where's Waldo? While Bob and Steven were marking the equipment. So that was pretty cool. Just to see all of your guys' hard work coming into the building and then coming out. So, going out. So that was really cool. And then yesterday I did get to go on a install for Northrop Grumman. However, can't take pictures inside there. But that was really cool because we've been servicing them for a long time. And that was something Robert was working on with the contact there. And, they had older equipment. And he had been just talking to them for a while about replacing the treadmills and finally got to do that. So I was part of that yesterday, and that was a good time. Went
Yeah.
really nice.
That is cool. Sometimes it's nice when you have those long-term clients or long-time clients that, they get an opportunity to invest some, additional funds into their space and improve it. And it's nice when you can go from being the service partner to the, the design, consultant and helping them with that. So that's cool. I'm glad you got to be part of that.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yep. I was out myself this morning out at a new construction site that is delivering next Tuesday. It's beautiful down there in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Really excited. This is one that we've worked on really closely with like the designer. Shout out to Jen at Bandora. Steven knows her too.
Yeah, Bandora Design.
Had a chance to work with her really closely on the design for that space and along with the developer Rob and the whole team over there. So Tuesday is a big day after a lot of planning and preparation. It's my time to not fumble at the 1 yard line, as they say.
Right.
Got to get it across the finish line there. So looking forward to the task, though. So that's really, I think, just about the week in review. I'm just kind of getting caught up from being out and having a little bit of time, under the weather myself last week. But I'm feeling good.
Good.
And I got out on the road a little bit and got to talking to some property managers and things. And I noticed, sometimes you ever like get into a conversation, either one of you can answer this, where you like start talking to somebody and you feel like you're using too much industry jargon or something like that, and like maybe the person doesn't quite know what you're really saying. Like you think you're explaining it well, but then you realize you're using a lot of terms that maybe they don't know.
Yeah.
I had that experience a couple times this week, and I realized that there might be just like kind of a disconnect a little bit between some of the words that we use commonly in our exchange of information and maybe what customers, think machines are or think terms mean. So I don't know. I thought maybe just doing an idea of a quick discussion of some of the basic terms that we use. Obviously, we can't do them all in one episode. That would be like a, 200-hour long, audio clip. But I had the conversation with somebody about cardio consoles in general, and I realized that the way I described things wasn't exactly the way that they described them or thought of them. So that kind of inspired me today. So I don't know. I wanted to just ask, have you guys ever had any interactions like that with someone and felt like maybe just there was a lot of confusion about, specifically about consoles, like what they do, what they're capable of, what one thing means versus the other? Steven, maybe?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. I always get the question, well, what's the difference between an LED console, an LCD console, and a touchscreen console, and an interactive console? And I definitely get that question a lot. I'm always taken back at how much people know and don't know with regards to consoles. And so you bring up a good question, because it's important to know what they're buying, so that, there's pros and cons to everything. Even if it's the most expensive console out there, there can be a con to that as well. And so I think this is a good talking point for us to go over.
Yeah, with each type or level of, console that you can get for a piece of equipment, there are, to Steven's point, pros and cons. There are concerns. There are things to look out for. There are pluses and minuses, on and on it could go. Things that you need to know or have prepared in your facility to be able to maximize certain pieces of equipment, right? So all of that is really important to know. And if you're kind of figuring that out as you go, more often than not, you're going to run into maybe a less than ideal final result, because you didn't, just quite didn't know what you were doing. So we want to help you to avoid that, to the extent that we can. So I thought maybe we would just start the conversation with the very, very most basic, right? So if you walk in a gym, probably one of the most basic types of cardio console that you're going to see in the gym is your basic, like they call it more or less a computer or a cycle computer. And they're usually attached to, items like rowers, maybe like a climber, a ski erg or something along those lines, it's basic indoor spin bike or indoor cycle. What's the basic purpose of a console like that, Steven, a computer on a unit like that? What's it do? What doesn't it do?
On a simple unit?
Yeah, on just the computer type that you would find on a rower or a console. What's it going to provide you, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's a basic small console, typically very tiny, like the size of a phone, maybe like an iPhone, 15 Pro Max, if that's what you call them. I can't even remember. That's usually the standard size that you see on those, and they give you the basics, like how fast you're going, how much power you're generating, how much calories you're possibly burning.
Of course,
what
the
else?
time.
Yeah, the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you some simple stuff. It might give you some prearranged or pre-recorded interval training and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
that would
it's-
probably be like even like maybe like the highest
Yeah.
end ones would do something
exactly. Yeah. So that's basically the core of what they do. And normally they're operated by like, AAA batteries or AA batteries. So that's an indicator of how simple the console is.
So usually, exactly, they're super simple. They're inexpensive to replace when they break. Usually you can't really repair them. If they break, you're just probably going to replace it, or the batteries died. That's the two things that are usually the culprit. And you generally unless Emily, are you familiar with anywhere you can like adjust the resistance or anything? I don't think that usually you can even do any of that.
No, it's
Yeah.
usually usually on machines like that have those kind of computers on them, you're adjusting the resistance on the actual machine somewhere.
Yep, like manually with like a
Yeah.
little lever or something.
Right.
Yep. So that was kind of, basically the thought, that I wanted to kind of address quickly. Nothing really much to talk about there. They're just little computers that give you a little bit of workout data, and that's all you're going to get. Now, moving on to something that's maybe more basic, now the computer type that we just talked about doesn't usually ever require any external power. Moving up to this next level, this is going to be more like your LED, or your quote unquote your basic console. So, Emily, if you walk into a gym and they've got basic LED consoles on their cardio equipment, what can those consoles do?
Well, again, it's gonna, if I'm gonna get on a treadmill, so let's say I'm getting on a treadmill because that's what I normally do, it's gonna give me my distance, the time, how many calories I may be burning, things like that.
Yeah. You can usually adjust your speed, right? You're going to be able to make your treadmill go up and down a little bit in speed. You're going to be able to change your incline if it's a unit that has an incline. If it's an elliptical that has an adjustment stride, you may be able to adjust your stride, on the console there. But it's really just going to be the most basic, functions that allow that unit to do its most basic things. It's not going to be a lot of, preloaded entertainment or workout content. There probably isn't really going to be any. Maybe just like a hills option where it's going to just automatically lower and increase your resistance or something. But that's really going to be probably the extent. Steven?
Yeah. Like you said, it's simple. It has, the most basic things of tracking, your pace and all those things. And I've seen some of those basic LED consoles on treadmills where it has like pre-recorded like military workouts and marathon trainings and stuff like that. So, and heart rate control and stuff like that. So, now, especially now, you have the simple LED consoles that have a lot of integrated features that make them a little bit more functional, but it does keep the cost low as well.
Yep. And they're usually pretty inexpensive. Now, when it comes to maintaining and repairing and or potentially replacing an LED or a basic console, Emily, is the customer usually going to be, do they have a lot on their plate in that case in terms of maintenance, or do you find them to be simple to take care of?
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, you're usually like the console maintenance guru around here.
I don't
Thought
know about
do you have any like sagely advice on how to maintain an LED console? Is it much different than the touch screens that you did the post about the other day?
Well, I just know you're not going to be touching the console really like that as you would an actual touch screen kind of a thing. And so so really there's hardly anything you need to do. Just you can wipe it down and that's really it.
Yep. Same principles though, right? You don't want to spray a bunch of sprays on it and get liquid in there. But as far as what you're going to be looking to need to do there, maintaining a unit like that, it's going to be very simple. Maybe even less than the touchscreen, honestly, because you don't even have to worry about the fingerprints. To your point, you're going to just be trying to keep it clean, basically, more or less. And then as far as content, usually. As a general rule, Steven, being the more tech savvy of us here in terms of the mechanics of the equipment, treadmills always need power, right? Typically regardless of your console type. But if you're going with a simple LED or a basic console, what does that usually mean for your other cardio pieces? And what can that mean for your space in terms of how you can lay it out or arrange it?
Yeah, so you bring up a good point because, like you said, treadmills always require power. They always need to be plugged in. The advantage to having, like, for instance, an elliptical or a bike with a simple LED console is you're not restricted to location. So, in other words, you don't need to be in front or near an outlet to plug the unit on. So, for an elliptical or a bike, all it requires is pedaling above 35 RPMs to start the unit up. And normally it starts up within 3 to 5 seconds.
Yep.
And so when it comes to functionality and ease of putting it in wherever in the fitness center, it's game changing, because you're not stuck to a certain layout because the outlets were unfortunately placed in these bad locations. So it does afford itself these simple LED consoles makes their case in those scenarios as well.
Yeah, the self-powered was exactly what I was thinking. You know, you may get in there and you may have your gym laid out one way, and you go to rethink your space because you just realize maybe, you know, a good example would be that in the recent years, ASTM recommendation for safety behind treadmills has changed. So it used to be like 4 feet. Now they recommend 6. Well, you know, if you're just using a self-powered, if you maybe, for instance, you have 2 rows of cardio and your treadmills are in front and your ellipticals are in the back. Well, if you're just using self-powered ellipticals that don't require certain outlet locations, it was easy for you to just scoot those machines back and make a little bit of additional room. And that's an advantage of using simple cardio consoles, is that typically beyond your treadmills, you're not really tied to, outlet locations. They can be kind of moved around the room. And I thought that was nice, just from a planning standpoint. And they don't usually require internet either, right? So
yeah, that's right.
if you're in a facility that doesn't have, you know, a lot of access to power or a lot of access to internet, you know, those simple consoles can get you where you need to be. So I thought that was pretty
agreed.
cool. And then you're moving up, you know, beyond that, you're going on to your next tier. And this is usually kind of falls into the category LCD, touchscreen, you know, quote unquote advanced consoles. Now, Emily.
Oh. You know, I just let everybody know who's listening. I warned him, do not put me on the spot. So,
you know, it's not like the whole format is just me asking questions or anything. No, you know, I was just going to ask you, you know, what basically, I thought this was an easy one.
oh gosh.
You know, just basically, you know, what can the clients expect from their touchscreen console?
Well, they can expect a lot more options. Normally you can connect to, sorry, I got distracted from ambulances going by us outside, and fire trucks maybe. Yeah, just some more options to like entertainment things. There's a lot more. And I know even the console in our gym, I can connect to my Apple Watch and start recording a workout. So there's just more things that are available with a better console.
Yeah. It's like that one famous chef whose name I can't remember used to say, you know, you're kicking it up a notch, you know, right? You're going up here to these advanced consoles. You're taking your workout now and you're adding some more bells and whistles, so to speak, right? So you're still going to have all your basic functions. You're going to have your speeds up, your speeds down, your inclines, all those things. But then you're going to be able to, Emily's point, you know, if you are a facility that's equipped with that, you know, TV signal, right? Well, now you can maybe view those TV channels right there on the console of your machine. Or perhaps, you know, if you're using, for instance, the True, Envision 16 touch console that we work with commonly, that's going to give you access to web-based entertainment like Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and things like that. So that's going to allow you, if you're somebody who, you know, wants to go in there and go on a long run and, you know, you don't want to use your personal device, you could log in there and you could enjoy content and things. And that's a nice thing to have in your facility if you want to offer that as a like a perk or an amenity, you know. And it kind of delivers like that slightly higher end feel, like maybe you're in a club, like a fitness center, a fitness club. I can't think of the word right now. Like, you know, a neighborhood gym that you would go to. Yeah. Emily?
Yeah, I mean, and really, I mean, more and more, we're seeing that TVs on equipment is just really, it's not happening as much. Right. It's outdated. It's very old school, getting away from that. And so this is the other option now is to have these types of consoles to have that kind of entertainment.
Yep. It's more all in one. You're not maintaining 2 separate pieces of technology
Yeah.
where, one breaks and the other one then breaks and you're kind of going
Two
back
different
and forth.
manufacturers too.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of times the TVs
Yeah.
were coming from some third party
Oh.
as
Yep.
well. And
That
yeah,
is a
True.
nightmare. I
It is a
don't miss
nightmare.
that.
no, you're right. And then you had to have a lot of external, additional hardware to be able to hear it and
Mhm.
change the channels and things.
Mhm.
And that's all still can be the case, which we'll get into in just a second. So, those are some of the pluses, right, of these advanced consoles. To Emily's point, you might be able to go and say, I want to run on the beach today and click beach. And now
Mhm.
your screen will change to the beach and you're running. And as you turn your speed up, it goes by a little faster. Or, turn it down, the scene goes by a little more slowly. And it's just, it's nice, and from a marketing standpoint, if that's something that you're really concerned about and you're really trying to make that first impression, really a wow factor, it can add a little bit of ambiance to the room too when you walk
It
in,
does,
right? Like
yeah.
the screens usually have like a nice active, like a waiting screen, some nice images popping up and moving around so that even when the unit's not being used, it still kind of is offering you some visual.
It's
engagement.
eye-catching.
Yeah, so if you're doing a tour and there's no one on the unit, it still is eye-catching and will help
Yes.
you to, just impress people with the space, which is nice. But along with all those goodies does come the need for, additional concern with maintenance, repairs, and making sure your facility's set up for optimization. So if you want to use any of those internet features, what do you need, Stephen?
Quality internet.
Quality internet, right? And
Yep.
it can't just be, patchy Wi-Fi or something like that. Because if you have all those units if you have 3 treadmills, 2 ellipticals, 2
Mhm.
bikes, and a climber, that's 7 or 8 pieces, and then they're all connected to the internet and they're all in use, right? That's going to be if the Wi-Fi has to be strong enough to support that. So it is not uncommon that we find that if we go into a space that's using Wi-Fi and we try to install new machines, that sometimes initially the performance of those features isn't great, and the property then has to go back and try to reassess how to get better Wi-Fi into the space, right? So
Yeah.
whereas if that's something that the client's aware of ahead of time, that they're thinking about ahead of time, and they know, okay, these advanced consoles are going to need this advanced internet, they can start asking those questions ahead of time and, planning for those things. But you did a nice post the other week on this, Emily, with the touchscreens too. You got a beautiful touchscreen in a nice sunny room. After it's used for a couple hours, what do you usually have then?
You're going to have fingerprints, any kind of residue from someone just touching it or trying to wipe it down. There's going to be streaks. I mean, so it looks beautiful when it's newly installed, but it can quickly look not pleasant.
Yeah. Now you guys are in luck because we actually offer a service. Emily herself travels around all over town, all over Maryland, DC, and
What I
Virginia.
do.
She's got like hundreds of microfiber cloths just all over her, and she just runs around your gym and just. So if you guys ever need that service, just let us
Little
know.
wipey on the move.
Little wipey screen swipey. That's the name of the service. So just come on by and let us know, and we'll send her on out there. It's like a mobile car. You know those big things in the car wash that spin around real fast and slap your car? It's basically that's what she does in your
That's
gym.
me.
Slapping consoles.
No, but it's just another thing to have to think about, right? You have to go in there and make sure that you keep those screens clean and looking nice, because like anything else, if you don't take care of it, then
It looks ugly. It
looks ugly.
really does.
and it
Looks dirty.
It does.
Yeah.
It looks dirty.
yeah, and then if you and then it's not achieving what you want it to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So you got to have obviously power for any one of those consoles, right? So no self-powered option for those. If you want to have the fancy screens, you're going to make sure you have to have outlets. So that could require having an electrician come in ahead of time and
Yep.
rearrange outlets and things. So again, these are all things to think about, right? You want to make sure you've got that all thought out ahead of time. Steven?
Yeah, and one more thing, touching base on that, internet thing, having quality internet. Depending on brands and manufacturers, sometimes, and this is where customer education is huge. Is sometimes with internet, a lot of these properties have these terms of use, and so when you log into the Wi-Fi, it redirects you to a web page so you can agree to terms. Well, a lot of brands out there, they don't like that. It's either it needs to be open access or it needs to be password driven. You can't go to a splash page and agree to terms, because sometimes those consoles don't have the capabilities of redirecting. So again, although they're really nice to have, they can be a little bit of a headache. in terms of, you got to make sure you have the right setup at the property so that these consoles can be, fully functional.
That's really important, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I've noticed a trend recently, especially with some of my work with new developments, because it's always this arms race with the new developments going into any area to offer newer and better amenities and more amenities and higher quality amenities. So one of the things that I've seen recently now is a lot of these properties are offering free resident Wi-Fi in their communities now, where if you move into the community, you just have access to internet in your room, and it's all part of their community now. So a lot of those services work just like what you described. So it's a nice amenity to be able to offer to your residents, but if your facility Wi-Fi is going to have that exact type of setup, and because it's so much more common now than it used to be, it's become more and more of a concern with these projects. So a lot of times, if they don't have an additional network that you can connect it to, then again, you're going back post-install trying to figure out how to bring that in. Now, most of the time, the staff has their own dedicated in-house Wi-Fi, and it's not usually a problem to connect a few pieces of equipment to it, for that purpose. But again, good questions to ask, good things to think about ahead of time, because nothing worse than having a bunch of brand new machines that look great sitting there in your room that you can't use because they just don't work. Now, at least in the case of these advanced consoles with the touchscreen consoles, if the internet's not working or the TV's not quite working right, as long as you can get power, you can at least generally still get the basic functions out of these advanced machines. Like, they'll still work. You'll still be able to do the ups and downs and, speed up, slow down types things, but you'll lose that entertainment. Now, going on to this next tier of equipment, which is kind of like the final frontier, so to speak, of this conversation, is talking about connected fitness, right? Now, that's like the highest level of technology in the fitness industry so far. If you were to buy a piece of connected fitness equipment and not have good internet, you basically would have bought a very expensive paperweight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
You really just can't do anything. It's the whole purpose of those units in most cases is really to get into exactly what we'll talk about. So either one of you, jump ball, just throwing it up here, can dive in and kind of go into this. Connected fitness, what does it mean? How is it different than the standard touch or advanced consoles? And what could the customers expect from that?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start off because I'm going to give the simplest answer, and then Steven can build off of it.
That's Emily, guys, in case you didn't know. Emily's going to answer this one.
No, my name's Little Wipey.
Little White.
So a lot of times you need a subscription, and you're signing on to their classes that you can sign on, live classes and things like that. So for spinning, and then there's studio stuff, and just it really is cool. But yeah, if you don't have Wi-Fi or strong Wi-Fi, then it is not usable. I mean, you can get on the bike and you can pedal, but you're not going to get the full effect, the full benefit of the purpose of it.
Yep. Basically, that's it in a nutshell, right? So connected fitness, the way I usually explain it to clients is connected fitness is bringing the outside world into your gym. It's bringing fitness to you versus, just what you have there in the facility. It's taking you beyond your walls. So to your point, Emily, that's going to connect you to live classes. Every day you'll be able to see the live classes that are coming up, what time they start. Some people really like that, that just the feeling of they're really part of it in the moment that it's happening. It helps them feel more engaged in the world and things, and they love that. Now, there's also on demand. So every time a class is live, as long as it's not a big debacle, I'm assuming, it gets added to the catalog of on-demand classes. So every day, every week and month that goes by, that backlog library of on-demand classes is just growing and growing and growing. So that's going to allow you to go back. If you really like a particular instructor, but you can't connect with them at the time they usually do your live class, you'll be able to go back and find those classes and things. They also oftentimes have like real world rides where you can go and I talk a lot to property managers about this, especially, where we live here in the Mid-Atlantic. There is a large, immigrant population from all kinds of different places here, right? People come from all over the place and end up here in Maryland. So you're talking to people all the time from other places. And I'm always explaining to property managers, like, how cool is it if somebody comes in and says, like, oh, hey, blah, 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 and you're talking, and they tell you that they're from a certain country. And then you can then go to this unit and go to the big main street in their hometown and pull it up and say, imagine you're feeling homesick one day and you can go for a run or a ride down your,
down your
your
street.
hometown. And it's
Yeah.
not just like some generic scene. It's like
It's a live
it's the
recording.
real live, recordings of those places. So I just think those are really neat ways to bring that highest end, of connectivity, right, into the facility, and to be able to offer that type of technology is really nice. But again, there's things to think about. So the internet that you mentioned, Emily, that's obviously the biggest. If you don't have good internet, you're kind of dead in the water with these because you can't download, stream, or access any kind of classes. But when it comes to maintenance of those, there's a lot of different modalities. So what kind of different connected fitness machines can you get? Not brands, but what kind of formats do they come in?
Yeah, so you can have a spin bike with a.
That's the OG, right?
That's
like
the
one
original.
everybody kind of knows.
Yep. You have the mirrors. Now that's kind of new and up and coming. It's kind of taking up the industry by storm now, and you're seeing them a lot in these yoga studios and stuff like that.
That's typically like a 50-inch, a
Yep.
touchscreen mirror where you can not only see the content, but you can also see yourself in the reflection, and you could follow an instructor.
Yeah.
So that's really popular.
We also have rowers as well. With that's taking the industry by storm too. We're seeing that product everywhere. Rowers with interactive fitness and trainers with rowing as well. I'm trying to think what else.
Oh, the rowing's really cool. You mentioned the rower, and I thought that was neat. And one of the other things that you can do on these products a lot of times is they'll call them like ghost rides or whatever, where you compete against professionals in whatever thing you're doing. So the rower was the one I thought of because that's the demo I saw somebody do where they went and said, I'm going to compete against so-and-so, the world's best, rower. And the person's little boat was trying to keep up, but this girl that he was rowing against was just lighting him up. She was so fast. So, if you ever want to really measure your skills against some of the highest skilled people in something, you can really see how you stack up. You can be running right there behind Usain Bolt or something like that, and seeing how you keep up. So that's really cool. Really
I think so. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
interesting stuff, for sure. There's usually subscriptions, so that's something to think about. We can typically help with that. If you purchase through a good dealer like RMS or any other dealer, we partner with Echelon, is a company that we do a lot of connected fitness work with. And we work with them. And typically in that process, we can help out by bundling, membership up front, right? So rather than selling 1 year, Stephen, what kind of options do we normally have for that?
So you have 1 year. I think there's 3 years. There's 5 years. I think ideally, the best scenario is 5 years. So for the most part, most products in the Echelon line, they have those 5 years, and then it comes with a 5-year warranty as well. So that once you buy it, the property in reality doesn't have to worry about it for at least the 5 years.
Yeah,
and I think it's nice to have. It's a nice option.
Yeah. In the case of Echelon specifically, as long as you have an active subscription, you're under warranty. That's how they run it. So that's nice. So if you go beyond the 5, but you keep your subscription active, they'll help you with your parts, to keep your machine up and running. They're not going to just
leave you high and dry.
Yeah, leave you high and dry, which I thought was really nice too. So if you can, invest up front a little bit more to pack in as much membership as we can, then that kind of makes it so those units are a little more, set it and forget it. Now, they're probably going to have most of the same maintenance requirements as the regular version of their, cardio partner, right? So if it's an elliptical or a rower or a bike, it's going to have the same basic, maintenance requirements. So the touch screens, they're going to need Emily's wipe service to come on out there and keep them squeaky clean. So that's something to think about too. You're going to want to make sure that's kept clean. But then again, those units, they usually have nice, big, bright, large displays. Excuse me. So if you have a facility that's prone to a lot of misuse or misuse or abuse of the equipment, Stephen, would you recommend that this would be the perfect piece for them?
Probably not, because they're going to be dealing with a lot of headaches if it's people that don't care about the product, the brand, or just the the property in general, then you're just going to have a big nightmare on your hands. So
Yeah.
it's be something to consider in the brand or the product that you're buying.
Yeah. And I think that's basically, kind of the highlights of everything. So just to kind of recap, all four of those layers that we talked about briefly, right? You got your, your cycle computers or your ergometers, sometimes they call them. And that's just real basic stuff. It's going to... I'm coughing, Steven.
Man,
What's it going to give you?
Steve, what's going
What's it
on?
going to give you, Steven? The cycle computer.
The basics. So if you got to power the unit on with a AA battery, that tells you have the simplest of simplest consoles out there. So it gives you your basic speed readings, how much power you're putting out, maybe a heart rate, maybe.
Probably not. In most cases.
Maybe not even that. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, real basic. Next, you're going up to your LED. That's going to give you all your standard features, ups and downs, speed up, go faster, go slower, heart rates and things. Emily, are they usually powered or unpowered?
Powered. Right?
Self-powered, right? Yeah. I said the wrong word. I said powered or self-generated. I set you up. I set you up. I set you up with the wrong answer.
I told you not to do this to
I'm
me, Steve.
sorry, I
You're
did it
going
to
to
you.
get a punishment.
But they're self-generated in most cases, right? So if you're going to have a space
Sure.
where you don't have a ton of outlets, going with a simple LED console is going
Yes.
to allow you to mix it up and not be tied so much to power outlets there. Touch and advanced consoles, that's going to give you all your entertainment options, TV viewing, Netflix, Hulu, on-demand, things such as that. You're going to need Emily to come out there to help you keep your consoles clean, unfortunately, but she's here for you. That's important. And then connected fitness, it's going to take you up to your highest level. That's going to require your on-demand internet, your internet to access that on-demand and live content. It's going to require some subscriptions and some additional considerations, down the line. But they all have a purpose. They all have a role to play. They all have any one of them can be the right shoe for the right foot is basically what I tell somebody. It just depends if, what kind of foot you got, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if I've missed anything that you all, wanted to add to that conversation, but I just thought it was nice to kind of start with just identifying some of these common terms. So basic LED console, touchscreen LCD console, connected fitness, all of these things, they mean something specific. And just understanding that can help you to take better care of your, your equipment. It can help you to market your space better to the people that come through and, want to tour your space. If you know the right terms, it helps. Because, unfortunately, if they know it and you don't, and then you're saying the wrong thing, they may be in the back of their mind paying more attention to the mistakes you're making than what you're really saying. So
Yeah, and then if you are looking to upgrade, and you're not sure about the different types of consoles, and all you know is, or all you want to do, you're just driven by wanting to upgrade and have the best of the best. Well, maybe, it's not, you have to take into consideration the type of facility that you have. We discussed, is your equipment usually abused or misused, or it could be, then definitely you wouldn't want to invest your money in something that is going to get broken or misused. So that's why we wanted to discuss this, is because it helps property managers really take in consideration, okay, well, what kind of property do I have, and what really would be the best console type for my facility?
yeah, like before, during, and after install,
Yeah.
right? It's really important. Steven?
Yeah, and also too, if you get the fan, because what you don't want is you buy the best consoles out there for the property, and then 90% of the people in the properties, the tenants, don't use it. All they do is they put their laptops or their iPads, their phones on top of the consoles because they're watching.
Yeah, Steven just went back in time a little bit.
Yeah, they're I know, right?
They put their Game Boy Color up there on the
a laptop on there.
They put their old 8-track.
Because, in reality, too, because here's another thing to think about, too. So let's say, for instance, you have $50,000 budget for the fitness center. Well, if you go with a quality base unit, quality treadmill, but with a simple LED console, you can get much more in the fitness center if you go that route. Whereas if you go with a quality unit with an expensive touchscreen console, well, that's going to eat up your budget even more. So it's just some things
Yeah,
to
it could
think
be like
about.
$1,000
It,
or more difference per piece. you
Yeah.
know? So if you've got 7 to 10 pieces of cardio in your space, it could be a $10,000 to $15,000
Yeah.
chunk of your budget.
it's huge.
Yeah.
And you know, that can be another unit, another niche product in there, something else, something to add variety for the people. I think they would appreciate that even more when they have different options in the fitness center, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 now we see people just using their phones, watching their shows,
Yeah.
or, you know, putting their iPads on there. That's what we see primarily. But, you know, it's also nice to have that nice touchscreen slick look in the fitness center, because it just makes everything look really nice as well. So
Yeah.
just a lot of things to think about.
And, you know, one more, you brought up another point that made me think of another point, which is that, you know, the owners, right? You have to understand your owners of your facility. So if you're a manager and you know that your owners are the type that like to refresh or update their space very frequently, you know, if they're every 4 to 5 year, we're going to want to buy new equipment and cycle things out type of ownership group, then, you know, touchscreen consoles might not be a bad idea. Now, if there's somebody who is, let's call them more frugal with their money, right? Some owners expect to get 10 and 15 years out of their purchases in the gyms. You know, at least they did the last time they bought them, and they may be expecting something similar again. Now, if you're expected to maintain a piece of cardio equipment for 10 years, at some point during that time, your console is probably going to break and need to be replaced. And again, now you're talking not just about having had to pay that higher markup on that part once, but now you're having to replace it with the same higher priced product. So, you know, again, these are just things to think about. You know, we're trying to give you the positives and the negatives of all this stuff so that you can have like a very informed understanding of what it is that you're getting involved in, and hopefully make the right decisions. That's why we came up with the tagline for the podcast, where multifamily foes. Multifamily foes fight to the death. No, where multifamily pros become fitness amenity pros, because it's a lot for you all to be overseeing and responsible out there. You have plumbing systems and entertainment and electrical and all this stuff to worry about. You got your security, you know, your key fob systems that break every other day, and you know,
I can only imagine the amount of emails they get.
yeah,
Oh my.
it's got to be crazy. So, you know, if you have a few minutes a week to tune in here, you'll learn a little something about your gym. It may help you just, you know, as you try to operate that space, to find a little more success there. So, as always, we hope that if you found this podcast informative, educational, whatever that other thing I say is, or entertaining, that you would share this with a colleague, a friend, family member, anybody that you think might enjoy our voices. And it would really mean a lot to us if you could share it in that way, so that we can help somebody else to learn a little bit more about their space as well. So that's really about all I've got. I am Steve Heitzer here, the host from RMS Fitness here at Everyone Needs a Spotter. Steven.
And I'm Steve the Don Donadio.
He is Steve the Don Donadio.
Donadio.
Dwecadio.
Steven the Don Dwecadonadio. That's what his name is. The Donna Dwecadono. Emily.
Hey,
Hey. You going home?
going home, man.
Going home, going to bed?
Yeah.
Little nappy?
Little nappy. Little wifey needs a little nappy.
At 5:01, she turns into her alter ego, Lil
The
Nappy.
pumpkin.
The pumpkin. Well, guys, I think that's about it. So we appreciate you all so much for tuning in and giving us a listen. Again, if there's ever anything you'd like to hear us discuss, please shoot us an email at podcast@rmsfitness.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have an opportunity or would like to maybe be a guest here, we also would like to hear from you and discuss setting that up for this year sometime as well.
Yeah.
And other than that, we hope that you're all doing good. Have something fun lined up for the weekend. If you're not doing anything, tune in and watch the Baltimore Ravens beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday at 3 p.m. Go Ravens! I'm Steve, joined by Steven and Emily. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Bye.
See you later.